Now, one of the most enduring brands that came up for studies and case studies throughout the world has always been Coke. As a brand, as an institution, it's been a sterling example. Now, those of us who've been around long enough will remember one of the original concepts of Coke as things go better with Big, Big Coke. And then it moved on to Coke is the real thing. From there, the progression has been to things come together with Coke. So you see a progression, but you see a modernization that is supposed to appeal to the new generation. And that is the sort of platform with which I'd like to introduce our second keynote session. And the session will be conducted by Debabrata Mukherjee, Vice President, Marketing, Coca-Cola India and Southwest Asia. Debabrata Mukherjee, he likes being called Debu, leads the marketing function of Coca-Cola India and Southwest Asia and has more than 20 years of experience in sales and marketing. He set up the sales and distribution operations in Mumbai and then helped turn around the Delhi business as general manager. In 2004, he moved to marketing and handled roles, including managing all the sparkling flavor brands, and oversaw the integrated marketing and communications function before relocating to Seoul to head the marketing function of the Coca-Cola Korea business. In 2011, it was time to come back home and lead the strategy of still beverages and innovation. And then in 2013, he took the responsibility of the marketing function and essentially is responsible for all advertising, communications, and media partnership. Very active in the marketing community and a speaker who has graced multiple forums. He's also the deputy chairman in the Audit Bureau of Circulation. So please welcome on stage Mr. Debabrata Mukherjee.
That's a better photograph, actually, than how I look, so thank you. Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. It's wonderful to be in Dhaka. For me, it's a bit of a personal journey. My grandfather left Faridpur in 1930s and settled in what today is West Bengal. So to me, coming back to Bangladesh is always like coming home. So thank you, Sharif Bhai, for giving me the opportunity. It's a privilege and a pleasure. And because we are home, I think it is good to have a conversation. You know, I can spend the next 45 minutes talking to you, or we can spend the next 45 minutes having a conversation. So I'll appreciate if I ask you a question, there are no points for bad answers, there are only bad questions. So I'd love to interact with you as we go along. The second thing is, I thought I had 1 hour, but I've been told I've got 45 minutes. And in 45 minutes, if we can cover digital in the branding in the digital age, then I'm Superman. So I'm not going to try it. I will talk to you about a few examples from Coca-Cola, how we approach it. But there are two things which I don't think I'll be able to cover. And that probably calls for another couple of days. And those two things are technology and capability. I had the privilege of running marketing for Coca-Cola Korea. Anybody from Korea here? There you go. So I had the privilege of running Hangu Coca-Cola as marketing Jeonmu many years back. And in Korea, there was a gaming company called Naver. A gaming company, right? 11 years back, maybe 15 years back, it was a gaming company. Today, it is everything. Because it upgraded the technological platforms, upgraded the capability, today you cannot buy anything in the internet space in Korea if you don't go through Naver. So technology and capability, I'll leave for later. If you have some Q&A in the end, we'll talk about it. But that's one area which I might not be able to cover. The third thing, How many of you love maths in this room? Maths? Not very many. I could do with a few more show of hands. There is a mathematical correlation. If you run a regression line, between videos not working in forums like this, the correlation is 0.9. The correlation is 0.9. So if some of my videos don't work, please bear with me. I'll try and tell you a story to make up. So enough said. Moving on. I always, before I come and speak in any forum, look at what that word means. If you Google digital, everybody Googles everything nowadays. That is the meaning of digital. How many of you knew this is the meaning of digital? 1, 2, 3. Lesser hands than people who love math. Huh? Digital is actually something which is of signals or data expressed as a series of the digits 0 and 1, typically represented by values of a physical quantity such as voltage or magnetic polarization. My God. My God. So digital was an adjective. Today, digital has become a noun. Every company talks about digitization. And I think what has happened is something which started off as technology has today pervaded the entire ecosystem. But I'm not going to talk to you about technology, as I said, because there are more erudite, more competent speakers. I'll talk to you about a few stories from the life of Coca-Cola. Can you tell me who this is? Who's this? My team cannot answer. Who's that? Santa Claus, exactly. This is exactly what Santa Claus looked like in 1929. In 1929, this is what Santa Claus looked like. And then came the Great Depression. And Coca-Cola worked with DRC, a leading agency at that time, and this, what Santa Claus became. Life is about disruption. Life is about cultural storytelling. And digital is a platform where we do cultural storytelling. Today's Santa needs a selfie. The big jolly man with a big beard today needs a selfie. Digital is everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. This is how our story started in 1886, Jacob's Pharmacy. And then we became the first brand to be covered on the Time magazine. That's the power of stories. There was no digital then, but that's stories. Imagine if Martin Luther King stood in front of the Washington Monument and said, I have a message. Nobody would have really been inspired. What did he say? I have a dream. And the dream today in the digital age is to tell your stories, have a cultural point of view. When I show this slide in most events, people ask me, but you know what? This is a political example. And politicians have a way of inspiring, in a good way, I'm saying. I'm very respectful to politicians. They inspire through dreams, because you can have political dreams. But imagine, how many of you have iPhones in this room? Many more than the question on maths, huh? Many, many more. On 9th of January, 2007, exactly 10 years and a few months ago, a man stood up on a stage like this and he relaunched the iPhone. And he did not say, I'm relaunching a phone. He said, I'm launching 3 things. I'm launching 3 things. A music player, an internet device, and by the way, a phone. Life in the digital age started probably on that day. And in 10 years and a few months, look where we have reached. Do you know what the Apple's what the market capitalization of Apple is? What is the market capitalization of Apple, the company? 500? 500 billion? 700? Somewhere in between. $650 billion. What is the global GDP? Global GDP is $65 trillion. That's global GDP. For people who have studied economics and continue to take interest, unlike us who studied economics and then end up selling soap and Coke. I've sold soap for 4 years and Coke for 19, Unilever and Coke. So Apple is 1% of the global economy. Apple's market capitalization is 1% of the global economy. Something for us to think about. As we move on, stories and dreams are more powerful than messages. And in Coke, we look at both. I was having a very interesting conversation with Farhad sir yesterday. And I truly believe that creating brand love is only part of the story. I cannot take love to the bank. I can take love home. It's a good thing. But I can't take brand love to the bank. I take brand transactions to the bank. That's how I can invest behind brand love over and over again. Love and value. So I will talk you through in the next 20 odd minutes with some examples of how we built brand love and brand value. And the world is changing so rapidly, it is just incredible. A great example of real life brand love moving to brand value is from sport. I'm a huge sports fan. Does any of you remember the name of, does the name Joseph Schooling ring a bell? No, that table cannot answer. So, would you know the name of Joseph Schooling? You know who is, sir? Who's Joseph Schooling? Yes. You know who's Joseph Schooling. For those of you who don't know Joseph Schooling was a Singaporean schoolboy in 2006. He stood next to Michael Phelps and clicked a photo. He loved the brand Michael Phelps. 10 years later, in the Rio Olympics, he beat Michael Phelps. The first Singaporean swimmer to win an Olympic gold. Probably the only Singaporean to win an Olympic gold. Only one. Love for sport, love for swimming, love for Michael Phelps converted to brand value for Joseph Schooling. He became a hero in Singapore. Real life continues to disrupt. Why are we here? 45% of global internet users are from APAC. 7.4 billion people, 3.5 billion people who use internet worldwide. 45% are from Asia Pacific. We cannot ignore Asia Pacific because it is a huge market. But this is what keeps me awake at night as a CMO. Globally, people spend 118 minutes on digital. In Asia Pacific, people spend twice that amount. And I was having a very animated chat with my team. Why does this happen? And there are multiple reasons. It could be more content being created in Asia. It could be the proliferation of high broadband, where you don't need to watch television and you can get all your shows online. In my mind, there's another reason. If you look at, and I lived in Seoul for 4 years, and Seoul is a very outdoor place. You know, people spend a lot of time outdoor, like Australia as well. But in parts of India or in Bangladesh, we spend more time watching stuff than playing stuff. Reality of life. So because the outdoor culture is still at its infancy, people end up spending a lot of time in the digital space. My daughter, who's 19, she spends, for her, the daily newspaper is Twitter. She says, I read whatever is the news feed on Twitter for half an hour, and I don't need to read the newspaper. I have the privilege of sitting on the board of one of the largest newspaper and most established newspaper houses in India, and it's a huge disruption. How do you stay relevant? Unfortunately, one of the biggest issues in digital is this for companies. The stand on digital, and I take some copyright protection on this line because I keep saying it all the time. The stand on digital is primarily based on where one sits in the organization. And let me explain how. If I am a marketer, how do I use digital? Boss, I need long-form content, 3-4 minutes of tear-jerking content. If you're sitting in HR, you will show productivity by saying, I hired 30% of my new joinees through LinkedIn. I saved money for the organization. If you're the chief technology officer, you'll say, I implemented an ERP and I saved money for the organization. The biggest challenge that if you're in public affairs, you want to respond to all negative things being said about the company all the time. And for a company like Coke, and I talked about 45 minutes, 45 minutes is a lot. In 45 minutes, you know what happens to us? In 45 minutes, 1 million conversations happen across the world with the word Coca-Cola. If I search Coca-Cola, in the time that I would have, I hope to stay on time. If I go over by 10 minutes, pardon me. But in 45 minutes, there are 1 million conversations with the word Coca-Cola. In 45 minutes, 500,000 YouTube views will happen on Coke. And 40,000 new fans will be added on Facebook across all the pages we have in the world. That is 45 minutes today. What was 45 minutes when I was growing up? Nothing. Happiness. Time I could spend with myself. The world has changed. So, we need to change as organizations. However, it's getting better. 3 years back, am I blocking the view? Can you see from the back? I'm not blocking the view, right? So 3 years back, digital marketing was only about Amazon and digital operations and only these 3 blocks to the left. Today, companies are realizing that we have to use digital as a lever of competitive advantage. Paraphrasing Gore Vidal, who said, more powerful than the march of 1,000 armies is an idea whose time has come. Digital is an idea whose time has come. You cannot ignore it. You can hide, but you'll be swept away. So therefore, how do you have these interaction within the ecosystem between marketing, commerce, operations, and digital products? How do you use big data? And a lot of time, there's a difference between big data and real data. And I keep saying, don't boil the ocean. You boil the ocean, you get a lot of salt. You boil a little bit of the ocean, you get some salt, and that salt, you will know the texture, and you can take decisions. The issue with data is exactly that. You can keep boiling the data churn, and you'll get a lot of data on which you can't do anything actionable. But using data to take business actions is very, 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 very important. I'm assuming all of you know this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. This basically tells you that if we ignore the online shopper, you'll ignore him or her at your own peril. We thought only 3 things matter. It's about convenience. It's about getting something which I don't get offline. It's about price. It's much more than that. It's much more than that. With AI, I spent some time in Georgia Tech talking to the professors on artificial intelligence. It is incredible. They were doing a summer project on consumer responses. They were doing a project, 15 people, consumer responses. One of them was a robot. There were 14 people who were responding to consumer queries, and there was one who was a robot. Post 6 months, they did an evaluation. 97% got it wrong. 97% people could not say that this person or this response was from the AI-induced robot. The reality is, we can stay in our time wrap, but things are changing. Moving on. So how are we approaching this world? Primarily three things. One, we're looking at driving connections. It's very important to drive connections because the conversation and tonality is very important. A 30-second commercial, any brand managers in this room? Any brand managers? Brand directors? So, can I ask you a question, sir? So, how long is your average commercial? 30 seconds? And how many times in a month would you run that commercial? Frequency? 6 times, 7 times? 7 times? Imagine all of us, and I'll have to go back 30 years. Some of you will have to go back 5, 10, 15. Imagine falling in love. Imagine going to somebody for 30 seconds, 6 times a month, and trying to make that person fall in love with you. Is it possible? If you're a magician, yes. If you're Brad Pitt, maybe. Right? But in the digital space, if you create engaging content, you can create content and talk to your consumer 5 times a day, 30 days a month. That is the shift. The biggest issue is, and I say that with all humility because I've worked with the best advertising agencies and the best digital agencies, the capability required to create that 30-second commercial is extremely different from creating that 2-minute long-form or short-form content. So if you ask me, why do I worry? I worry about conversation in the appropriate tonality. We spray and pray. We spray our communication and pray somebody is going to like it. But tonality is very, very important. Creating value. As I said, I don't take love to the bank. If I'm not able to sell my product, if I'm not able to enhance the shopper experience, it means nothing. And I'll try and show you a few examples. How am I doing on time? Doing okay on time? Okay. The first thing, every organization goes through 4 stages. Sorry to sound professorial, but that's the reality. When things change around you, the first thing you do is resist. You say, no, I will not be swept away by the digital challenge. I will not be swept away by, I'm big. So you resist. The second thing that you do is recognize. From resistance, you go to recognition. Third, you reorganize. Once you recognize, you reorganize, recalibrate, and then you redesign your reward mechanism. The biggest issue is you reward what you get, which means if you reward bad behavior, you'll get bad behavior. If you reward good behavior, you'll get good behavior. The reason why even today we are making baby steps in digital is because we still assess our people based on the number of GRPs. You'll still say this is the share of voice I got versus my competitor. Right? How many people are, all of us are, dealing with this on a regular basis. Now you say impressions. Oh, what does impressions mean? There is no universal TRP. So we have a challenge. Until you get into programmatic buying in the right way, until you're able to zero in on universal TRPs, It will always be a challenge. But sometimes you take a gut call. And this is a great example of where the Coca-Cola company, the large company that we are, took a step back and said, these two guys, anybody knows who these two guys are? Dusty Borg and Michael, unpronounceable surname? Do you know who these two guys are? Huh? They didn't invent Facebook. That is such, that is Page and Brin. These guys created the Coca-Cola Facebook page. We bought it from them. The Coca-Cola company did not say, we will make a bigger, better Facebook page. Who are these guys? We recognized if a brand is loved, if somebody else has created a Facebook page for us, take it. So first example, I think a good example of recognizing that the world around us is changing and we need to change. Most companies fall into the trap of, let me show you. Let me show you I can do it better. But sometimes it's good to take a step back and say, if somebody has done it right, why bother? Okay. Share a Coke. How many of you have heard about Share a Coke? We did try a similar act in Bangladesh. I do want to show you this video if this works. It'll give you a sense of what we were able to do.
Last September, in the dead of night, the world's most iconic brand did the unthinkable. 150 of Australia's most popular names appeared on millions of bottles of Coke. Why? Because in the previous month alone, 50% of teens and young adults hadn't even tasted a Coke. We had to reconnect with Australia, so we decided to get personal. The internet blew up straight away, but we kept quiet. And while the buzz grew and grew, we recruited our fans and made them the face of our campaign. Then, on Australia's highest rated media weekend, we came clean and invited Australians all over to share a Coke.
If you know a Kate, share a Coke with Kate, or Mel, or Dave, or Jane.
Our message was everywhere, digitally and interactively at Sydney's iconic Coke billboard. Whichever way you turned, it was you and your friends up in lights. The media instantly took notice. Blogs lit up. Australia had fallen in love.
Coca-Cola.
Sharing a Coke and share a Coke with...
Thousands of requests poured in for more names, but we were ready. With kiosks where you could get any name printed on a Coke can. People couldn't get enough, queuing for hours. But the requests kept flooding in. So we put it to a vote and asked Australia who they wanted to share a Coke with most. And after 65,000 people got their say, 50 new names were released. We invited everyone to share a Coke, and share they did. Whether old or young, drinkers or non-drinkers, friends searched for names, tagged one another, shared stories. Australians everywhere were once more connecting over the world's most iconic brand. And with the holidays looming, we celebrated and shared a Coke with a friend who brings a smile to every face. We could give you a truckload of stats, but the bottom line is, in 3 short months, young adult consumption increased by 7%, and that's a lot of Coke. With one simple tweak to a label, Coke once again became part of popular culture.
What strikes me, I think the sound is a bit of a challenge, but it goes back to what I said in the beginning. It was a powerful idea, personalized bottles. We used the digital space to scale up the story. We used that was 5 minutes left going right across the stage, which is good. We used our coolers, we used print, radio, outdoor, and we sold 150 million bottles. So you start with an idea, create a digital story, take it on the ground with your regular platforms, and eventually it all boils down to selling product. In the interest of time, I will move on. This is one example of, we launched the global campaign of Taste the Feeling. 200 countries did it. And to me, I felt like a dinosaur. I had no idea what is a LBB. It's a little black book which talks about food. I had no idea what was Reddit and Digo. But my kids knew. They said, Dad, Coke was on Reddit. I said, okay, thank you. So there is a change in the way your future cohort, and we look at cohorts of 7 years. I think people who are schooled in marketing will tell you, your consumers move in 5, 7, or 10-year cohorts depending on what product you sell. And today's 17-year-old is part of the new cohort. If you do not speak their language, we will lose them forever. Moving on, FIFA, I will skip this. This, I do want to show. Have you seen this No Labels campaign? The important piece about this is, first you taste the product. You come into a category, I believe, because of the product. And you stay because of the brand. There are multiple companies which make wonderful shoes. But you stay because once you have bought the product and you have used it, you love the brand point of view. Cultural disruption can only happen if your brand has a point of view. I want to show you this as my last video and talk to you about a little bit of the stuff that we're doing in e-commerce.
Basif, heavy metal. I'm Debabrata. I started with friends.
He's got long hair, but at work he ties it in a ponytail. Probably piercings.
I read a lot of books. I read cognitive psychology, behavioral science. I've spoken at TED Talks.
Really? Wow.
You look nerdy. Like you think you're cool, but you're still a nerd. أكثر شيء مركز عليها التراث الإماراتي واللغة العربية.
And I also think he's wearing a contour.
Yeah, even I felt that, yeah.
أنا وايد أحب الطبخ. دائما يعني معظم وقتي أطبخ في المطبخ. طبعا يعني في المطبخ.
He's mature, like he's like cheddar cheese.
You mean basically معفن.
Extreme sports athlete. I skydive and pretty high risk activity for sure.
Because your actions speak louder than words, right? Yeah.
God, dude,
Whoa.
that's awesome.
لا هوني surprise.
It was amazing when the lights came on and you get to realize who you're actually conversing with.
واستغربت أول شيء لأن أول شيء فتحت الليتات الحمراء وما رحت بس أشوف واحد جالس قدامي وكلها تاتوز على وجهه.
This was my expectation of you. This is what you really are.
فشفت شخص مثل هذا طريق ما بعد تكلم وياه. You guys should be swapped. I didn't expect that.
The rocker was someone who I wouldn't expect to be a heavy metal musician.
I should have these tattoos, not you, man.
Change.
I'm pausing it for the you get the drift, right? We have prejudices. We have prejudices. Once you remove the label of prejudice, then the world becomes a different place. I might be wrong because I'm sitting in front of a very august audience who know a lot more than branding than I do. But I'm told the origin of the word brand. Does anybody know the origin of the word brand? I will, apart from the first table, who definitely do. Anybody from the back? Yeah, I see a hand there. Can you give them a mic? Give me 5 more minutes, partner. Five more minutes.
Hello. Somewhere in Western America, there was a ranch. There was some ranch and they were herding cattle, but they were not able to identify each other cattle because they were all mixing up in the daytime. So they decided to branded everyone's cattle according to the name of the ranch.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I hope my Coke team is able to give you a goodie bag.
Thank you.
That's how branding started. Branding did not start to sell a can of Coke or a bar of soap. Branding started because I needed to distinguish your horse from mine, the cattle, which look very similar. So we have used our own prejudice to say, if I put this brand on the shampoo, it is better than others. So this was an example by which we said we'll have no logo. And what did it do to the market? We sold millions of these cans with no logo. Because we said, moment you put a Coke brand, I am saying that this stands for something, X, Y, Z quality. But sometimes you need to step back, take the logos off, take a fresh look at ourselves. And this was, digitally, it got some 25, 30 million views, 18 million views. It's actually more, 100 million earned impressions, and we sold a lot of product. Since I've got 2-3 more minutes, one example from Bangladesh I do want to show. I'm of the firm opinion that we need to leave the world in a much better place than we found it. And something which is not top of mind for anyone, like recycling. We used an engaging interaction, a recycling machine, scaled it up in digital. We won an award in Busan, but to me, winning an award is only part of it. But creating a powerful social message which travels across multiple platforms, that to me is the true power of a program like this. My dear friend Shadab is here, who's the country manager for Bangladesh. He can provide you with more details. I have got 2 more slides, and then I will open up for questions. Coke Studio, all of you know, I'm not going to play Coke Studio. We were the first company in India FMCG company, not first company, first FMCG company to sell our products through e-commerce. For the first 14 days in India, Coke Zero was available only in Amazon. And that created 2 things, word of mouth and huge volumes, because you heard about the Coke Zero launch. There were already 40,000 fans on Facebook. And we used this to create a huge disruption. And guess who followed us? Burger King. I mean, burger through e-commerce, I don't know how that story pans out, but this was the leadership stance in creating disruption in the field of e-commerce. I go back, no point creating love if you cannot build value. No point creating love. And my last example, we have zillions of these in the market. So we asked ourselves, can we use the cooler as an interactive tool? So in Japan, we have a Coke One program My Coke program, wherein you go to the cooler, and there is an interactive display with the cooler. You buy a product, you earn points, you redeem it for multiple things. And in Japan, we have 1 million coolers. 1 million coolers, and growing. What we are trying to do in other parts of the world is use sensors, use beacon. The smart vision is something which is very, very important. Something for us to think about as marketeers. All of you have got sales-generating assets in the market. We put a small camera on a fridge. And you know what that tracks? That tracks how many times the cooler door is opened and shut. Why? Because if in that outlet I have sold 15 bottles of Coke, and the cooler door has been opened 40 times and shut 40 times, it means that the retailer is keeping stuff apart from Coke in that cooler. Simple. Why do we put a cooler? We call it a sales-generating assets. If I'm not sweating my asset, if somebody else is sweating my asset for somebody else's gain, I should get a part of the... It's like saying, I keep telling people, the cooler is my house. If I rent it out to somebody else, first of all, I don't want to rent it out. If I rent it out, I should get some rent for it. But today, not getting a rent and somebody else using my real estate is the problem. So we are using it's a very inexpensive camera. It's $15. $15, Wi-Fi, connected back to your office or the hub in which you track this, and you can actually get high level of return on your assets. There were multiple other examples, but in the interest of time, I shall pause. This is how the Salesforce gamification is happening, but I know that we are running behind schedule. This is how it looks, by the way. I don't know whether it's going to work. This is a bit of a demo as to how it works. Quite cool, huh? This is a pure cooler, so only Coke bottles are visible, but in an impure cooler, other bottles or other items of food are also visible. So that's where we are. We believe that it is not enough for us to just have a can of Coke in somebody's hand. I strongly believe that these two ecosystems are interlinked. I cannot survive by selling Coke in the old way. There has to be a better way of selling Coke through that ubiquitous device, which all of us have and engage with. I hope in the last 40 minutes you've looked at me more than looked down. Otherwise, I would have failed. I hope that was the case. The only quote that I want to leave behind on digital is, I think, what Winston Churchill said after the war and Britain was being rebuilt. And he said, this is not the end. This is not even the beginning of the end. This is just the end of the beginning. In digital, every time you think 100% penetration, 100 Mbps speed, we have reached the end of digital as we know it, digital will find a way of reinventing itself. So the only thing I'd like to leave with you, apart from the other things which I've shown you, is that whenever it comes to digital, please remember, when you think you know everything, and all of us are students of digital, it is not the end, not even the beginning of the end. It is just the end of the beginning. Thank you very much. Do we have time for any question, Shafi bhai, or we are way ahead of? Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you again. Have a great balance of the day, and have a wonderful workshop. Thank you very much.
No. Just stay on stage, because yes, we will subject you the questions.
Oh, you will? Okay.
So if you have questions, please raise your hands, and someone will walk over to you with a microphone. No questions yet?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. A very enlightenment presentation. We do understand that, yes, corporate houses, they have started using digitalization in terms of brand awareness and developing the brand love and the brand value. This country, which is Bangladesh, the government has announced that they would like to turn the country into digital Bangladesh. My question is that apart from private organizations or other, how does a government use digitalization to really rebrand or brand the country itself? So what would be your, say, 3 messages to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh as to how they should move forward with rebranding or branding the country through digitalization? Thank you.
It's a fabulous question, and if my 3 bullet points are right, maybe I can come back as a consultant to the Bangladesh government. That would be interesting. I think I can tell you what I've seen around me, and I'm certain you've seen it as well. The election of the year, or 2016, Donald Trump, or the way in India, Mr. Modi has used an army of digital influencers to talk about what the government has done is a good example. So let me try and answer it in a couple of ways. One is, for anything that we do in digital, it's important to figure out what is the problem you're trying to solve. A lot of time you do digital, look, it's good to do digital. Is the problem to get re-elected? Is the problem to tell a wider section of the country what are the social and economic progress that you're making? What are the policy changes you're making? How you're influencing our life, and therefore a dominoes effect on multiple lives? I would spend with the think tank, the intellectual glitterati that this country has, to clearly articulate the problem. Most governments use digital to win elections. That is tactical and temporary. But if you're able to first say, I'm going to spread a message to the wider ecosystem of what I'm doing, that's the first thing. Second is, beyond the point, people are going to see through you. Abraham Lincoln, you can fool some people for some time, some people for all time, but you cannot fool all people for all time. So the governments need to keep in mind that moment they are going to spread their stories of progress in a million sets of interventions, they have to implement it. Today, what is happening in crowdsourcing? Why do people read Twitter? Because newspapers take positions. Sometimes in Twitter, you go there, you know that this is a A, this is a B, I have an alternative. So the second thing that the government will have to do is follow through on their promise. So identify the problem, then spread it, the social and the economic message, stick to delivering on their promise. Third, most important, which companies also fail to do, we launch products, but we never review. We never review. We will launch a product, everybody in the company, because the CEO loves it, says, boss, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Let's launch it. After 12 months, it dies, and there is no review. What I feel is missing in this entire pie is, will Mr. Trump in 2017, December, or any other leader who has used the digital ecosystem to rally support, in 12 months, sit and do a thorough review and said, this is how we influence the digital ecosystem. These were our promises. This is where we are today. What do we need to do? Today, politics is like getting into a great college, and then nobody asks you what grade you got. But it has to be bigger than that. Once you get there, you must do a regular review. Have I answered your question? Problem identification, social and economic message is not just a re-election message. keep delivering on your promise, and most importantly, review. Because without that, you're dead. You'll never be re-elected again.
Anything more? Okay, there's a hand up there.
Sharif bhai, my apologies. Huh? We are going, this is the last question I'll take, and then I promise to go for a chilled glass of Coke, which I think I deserve.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola is an amazing brand. We all look up to it.
Thank you.
I would love to know what Coca-Cola thinks is next in digital. What do you plan on next? And also, what is digital in general next? Not only Coca-Cola, but also we'd love to know about Coca-Cola's next plans.
How much time do you have? I promise to come back for one full day and tell you all of that. It's a wonderful question. It's a large organization, so there are multiple priorities. Yes, we have a portfolio, which we now, our CEO talks about beverages for life. Today, if you look the portfolio that we have, please do sit down, please do sit down. We have, the portfolio appeals to a certain cohort, maybe in the 30 years of your life, you interact with our products. We want to build a portfolio which you can use for life, whether you're a 5-year-old or a 105-year-old. So revamping our portfolio, looking at ways and means by which I can tap into more occasions, more drinking moments, is something that we'd have to, and we are doing a lot of thinking around it. The other question as far as digital is concerned, digital is a mindset. And I think large organizations suffer from mindset inertia. That is what we are trying to change. We are taking recognition of the fact that there is a world out there that we need to be cognizant to and change. And it's a journey. It'll take us 5 years, 10 years, God knows how long. But if I were to answer your question in a single line, I would say we are building a portfolio for the future while cementing our portfolio of today. And as far as digital is concerned, we will engage the entire ecosystem, and we are going through a mindset shift and a gear shift. In digital, for those of you who don't drive automatic cars, I grew up learning in a car where the gear was like this, not like this. You have to go from first gear to fourth gear. That is the reality. So that's where we are. But it's a longer, this is a more tactical one-line answer. There is a lot of stuff behind that, and one day, if you invite me back, I'll come and tell you our story. Thank you very much. You've been a lovely audience. Thank you again.
I'd request you to stay on stage for two reasons. One is that if everyone allows, I have a question.
Oh, wonderful. That's a tough one.
And that is that, when Coke was initially launched and then it sort of developed, the bottle was shaped, as everybody knows, like a very curvaceous woman, right? Yeah, so when you held it...
As they say, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder.
No, okay, accept it. It works both ways because, for a man, you think, okay, and for a woman, okay, that makes me look nice. Why did you move from there to the straight can?
Okay, so obviously my friends here are not doing a great job of distributing that bottle. We have not moved to the can, by the way. So the can provides convenience. Why did we? So it is not moving from the bottle to the can. The bottle continues to be a huge part of our volumes all over the world. The bottle you cannot carry. It's a glass bottle, so you cannot carry. We have got bottle-shaped cans in the US, which look beautiful. In your next trip, please pick up one, or if you go to the Coca-Cola Museum, be our guest. So we have got bottle-shaped cans in the US. In this part, the cans are very expensive. To give you a sense, a can will cost you 6-7 Bangladeshi taka because you have to, the steel, getting it rolled, or the aluminum. So long answer to a short question, we have not moved. The can is a supplement to provide convenience. We are still focused on the glass bottle. And we, in other parts of the world, where the economy allows us, we have bottle-shaped cans. Andy Warhol, who most of you know, used to say that there are two most perfect shapes in the world, talking about shapes. One is the Coke bottle. I've already given some Coke, for the branding answer, I've given a Coke goodie bag away. Can I ask that question to the audience? Andy Warhol said two most perfectly aerodynamic shaped things in the world, perfect design. One is the Coke bottle. What is the other? I'll give you a clue. It's not man-made. Sorry? Marilyn Monroe, yeah, okay. I would agree to that, by the way, but Andy Warhol had a different point of view. I'm not Andy Warhol. It is not man-made. The egg. Is that you said? Beautiful legs, sorry, okay. It is the, okay. Oh, sorry. It is the egg. So Andy Warhol said, and I loved your question because it is a fantastic, in 1915 we created that bottle. It was 100 years of the bottle in 2015. So the Coca-Cola bottle and the egg, according to Andy Warhol, were the two most perfectly designed things in this beautiful world of ours. Marilyn Monroe legs.
We might then have to change that old adage. We used to say, was it the chicken or the egg? Now we'll say, was it the Coke bottle or the egg?
There you go. There you go.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I now request Gwen C. Albrassen, President of the Asia Marketing Federation, to come on stage and hand over a little token of appreciation to Debabrata.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you. Thank you. Up to you.
I mean, that was really, really an entertaining presentation, and certainly a very interesting Q&A session.